Hey folks, it's Frithgar here, how you doing? Just going in and we are starting up our combine. The one thing I don't really like is that you can't climb up the steps and sort of actually get into the door, go through the door. It kind of, I don't know, it would make it seem a lot more realistic if you actually climbed up those steps, because when you're getting into a combine, especially for the first time, actually climbing up those steps, it makes such a huge difference to when you're doing it. It just sort of feels like you're really about to start doing something important because of how high you've got to climb. And then you settle yourself down into the seat. It's an indescribable feeling. I know I'm trying to make my living here out of describing things, but when it comes to describing the feeling of just sitting down into the combine, turning it on for the first time, taking hold of that steering wheel and the joystick down there, that one just there, the control stick, that feeling is, words fail me on that one. I just can't begin to describe it. It is absolutely amazing. Anyway, my weekly question before we start our actual harvest: we are going to be using square balers. Last week everybody said that you wanted me to use square balers, so it'll actually be that one there. So we need to be able to handle the square bales. We need to be able to do things with them. So do you want me to use the 16 bale Arcusin, or do you want me to use the 3 bale Arcusin? Now this one here stacks them up into 3, and you would normally leave them in piles of 3 around the field. Then you would go out with one of these trailers and a front loader or a load all or something like that, load them onto the trailer, bring them back to the yard, and then unload them again. This one here loads it all, 16 bales on there. You whiz back to the yard with it, you tip it up, and it does everything for you. There is no handling with the telehandler. It is all fully automated. It's a wonderful machine. You may be able to possibly tell which way I'm leaning on this, but you know, it is your vote, it's your game. I will do whichever one you want me to. So, the 3 bale Arcusin or the 16 bale Arcusin. It should have been a card come up here. Click on it and you will be able to cast your vote, and head into the comment section and let us know why you're voting for the one that you're voting for. Now then, actually we're going to start this today from in cab. So what we do is we bring it forward and we'll start the engine up. Actually, I want to just, we've already started the engine up. We'll come in. Now I'm going to be very quiet and we can see if we can hear it actually engage. You first need to unfold the combine. Yeah, of course we do. Okay, let's come out. We will just unfold. I suspect that this one here is actually manually done. I know that one that I used to drive was manually done. You used to go out and just get hold of a lever and you sort of lift it and it would open it. So let's just do that. Yeah, that would almost certainly be a manually operated thing. You can actually see the lever there, just on that side. You would stand on the step beside the door and you would hold onto that, and that would raise the roof of the grain tank into the appropriate position. So anyway, let's go back into cab and start it up properly now. Okay, he grunts and he sort of bellows out a bit of black smoke as he just sort of engages that little bit there. That does actually sound quite realistic. I do like that bit. And then we're away. Straight into the crop, and we're away, and we're combining. And yeah, when you first once you're sort of halfway through the harvest, you become used to it. But it's still always nice at the beginning of the day when you first lower the header into the crop and you're away, or even just going into a new field. It's always a nice feeling, biting into a new field for that first time, and then you just sort of head off up across the field. There's a very unique feeling about that I haven't. It's yeah, like I said, it's indescribable. It's fantastic. If you ever get the chance to experience it, grab that chance with both hands and do it. You will never regret it. Okay, you may not want to do it very much. You may not ever want to do it again after that, but just at least once, grab the opportunity and just have a go, because wow, yeah, it is absolutely amazing. Right, let's just come on round here. And yeah, so the first combine I drove was a class Lexion. They did have a Dominator on the farm that I worked on, another class one. There's an older version of the combine, but I never actually drove that one. They stuck me on the Lexion, which I was quite pleased with. And then the second year, when I drove it a lot more, they'd gotten rid of the Dominator by that time, and they bought a brand new Lexion. I had the older Lexion, and the other chap, he was on the new one. And I have mentioned this before, mine was the one with the four-wheel drive on it, so I was the one that had to do all the steep banks, and he did all the big flat bits, which suited me fine, because I used to get quite bored going up and down the long stretches on the flat fields. Right, sorry, I had to cough a bit and have a drink, and then I coughed some more because the drink went the wrong way. Anyway, so yeah, I was on the four-wheel drive combine, but the thing that I noticed in particular about the old Dominator compared to the Lexion was actually the position of the engine, and it made driving the Dominator, because I did ride in the Dominator a few times, but it made driving it altogether much more uncomfortable. And if you have a look at this machine, this one is done well. Yeah, the engine is there, and then the grain tank is directly behind the operator, so it's cooler. It helps to keep it cooler in the cab, and it's a lot quieter. With the Dominator, for whatever reason, and Class did say that they got that wrong. That was one of the biggest mistakes that they ever made. I can't remember who it was that said it, but he was fairly high up in the company, and he did say, hands up, this is one of the biggest mistakes our company has ever made, was putting the engine directly behind the cab on the Dominator. Yeah, it made such a difference. It made it so much louder and noisier, and it was quite a bit hotter. But not only that, is you couldn't see the grain very well. Because the grain tank was back here and the engine was up here, you had to look through a window over the top of the engine and through another window to get to be able to see the grain tank. And that can actually make quite a big difference, especially in an older combine. You kind of need to keep more of an eye on what you're doing, and it was actually quite significant, not being able to see into the tank that well. And also, if you just wanted a sample of grain, it was also a bit more difficult to go and get it. So yes, the Dominator is not a combine that I would choose to drive, purely because of them moving the engine around, and I was quite pleased that ultimately I didn't actually have to drive it. I ended up driving that big, beautiful Lexion, and I actually drove one in Melbury Estate, in the old Farming Simulator 15 series. It was actually my very first Let's Play series on Melbury Estate. We ended up getting a Class Lexion, and we drove it around on there for a while, and that was some fun. I don't think it was the exact same model. I think we ended up with a slightly bigger model than the one that I used to drive. I got a feeling, did I use it on higher hills? I may have actually used the one that I drove on higher hills. I can't remember now. I know that we did have some issues with higher hills. We were having a lot of game crashes and stuff like that. But yeah, anyway. And I've never actually driven a New Holland combine, although I have worked alongside one. There was we were sort of getting behind on our harvest at one point, and a neighbour came along. He brought his New Holland combine in and went chugging up and down through the rows, and it was good. It was a nice combine. It was all right for unloading with. The spout coming out from the middle of the combine rather than up on the top, because the Lexion one just swings out from the very top of the combine, whereas the New Holland one that he had was very much like this one. The spout comes from the middle, so it comes up at an angle. We had very high trailers, so I was always very conscious of the fact that I might knock his auger, and I really didn't want to do that because I was just a student on the farm. As it turned out, they always had some temporary students on the farm just during the summer. I was there for a bit longer than that, and yeah, as it turned out, one of the temporary students did actually touch his auger, and the chap wasn't very happy. He had stern words over the radio, because he'd been given a temporary radio, and there was a strict no swearing policy on that radio. Absolutely no swearing, because there may have been kids listening, and that's fair enough. I completely agree with that. This bloke, he turned the airwaves blue. They touched his auger, and he was not impressed. And someone came on, the owner of the farm, he came on, and he wanted to know who was swearing into his microphone, and words were exchanged, stern words, and then there was private discussion between the manager, the owner, and this guy who was helping them out. And then the student in question who had touched his auger was no longer helping us in the field. He was sent off to do something else. I believe he spent the rest of the week, which was another 3 or 4 days that week, with a shovel and a brush, sweeping out grain stores until the chap who was helping us out had gone back to his own place. So yeah, I was extremely careful after that to really make sure I didn't touch the auger. I mean, I didn't want to do that. You don't want to do something like that. You touch an auger with with your trailer as you're going alongside the combine moving up the field, you probably end up doing some damage. Very, very fortunately, it didn't actually get damaged, but it was a close thing. I think it was just more luck than anybody's judgment that stopped it from actually getting damaged. Yeah, that was quite something. That was. So yeah, I did see the New Holland working, and I do remember always being nervous when I had to go and unload against that one. Unfortunately, because I want to say this without sounding like I'm bragging, I was the better driver on the grain carts. The other students didn't have as much experience as me, and so I was better able to fill my trailer. I could fill the trailer from front to back completely full all the way, whereas less experienced drivers weren't able to do that, and so they would go with only not quite a full load. I mean, it wasn't enough to really cause problems, but because of that, I was quickly picked out as the more competent driver. And after the little incident with the touching of the auger with the trailer, I was quietly informed that I would be the one always unloading the New Holland combine. So yeah, I was thrilled by that, as you can imagine. Absolutely thrilled. Or not, as the case may be. Yeah, so... And the other thing I noticed about it was we used to keep all the straw, and we would bale it up ourselves on this estate. It was a big estate. It was several thousand acres, and we had some of it was organic and some of it was normal crop. And we would bale up the straw for use for our own animals, and probably a third of the straw, well actually less than that even, probably a quarter of the straw we used ourselves for the animals on the estate, and then the rest of it was sold. And we actually had a contract with a local donkey sanctuary, and the driver would come along twice a week to get a lorry load of straw, and yours truly was the one that had to load him up every single time, because I was a student and that was a student's job, and nobody else liked loading lorries of straw. So I got to know the driver quite well, and we always it was always good. We always had a good chat and a laugh, and we'd load it up every day. Well, I say every day, every week. Twice a week it was. It was usually on Tuesdays and Fridays that I would load him up. That was Tuesday and Friday afternoon. I would be loading straw onto his lorry. It would usually take about an hour, and then we'd go our separate ways. But anyway, I digress. The thing with the straw, the New Holland had a slightly different system than the Lexian that we were used to. I don't think they had anything. I don't think they had like the big augers inside the combine that sort of screwed the straw up or anything like that. But the way that the straw was put onto the ground, I think it was just the way that it fed out of the combine, meant that you had a much thinner layer of straw. Well, not layer. The swath behind was a lot thinner. It was piled up a lot more. Whereas out of the Lexian, it was quite wide, and it would fill the full width of the baler that we would use. So you just drive straight down the field. Unfortunately, with the New Holland, it wouldn't fill the full width of the bale. And because we were using a very thin... It was a very long bale. Well, actually, I think it was about standard length of a bale. But the important thing to note was that it was quite a thin bale. And we used to use a flat 8 grab, or very similar to a flat 8 grab, to pick up the bales. And you would pick up 3 at a time. So I think they were, what, 2.5 foot by 2.5 foot by 8 foot long, something like that. So you could pick up 3 with the grab that we had. We didn't use bale spikes. We used the grab. But I say a flat 8 grab. Some of you won't know what that is. It's a big thing. It's like a big framework. It sits down on top of the bale, and then you have these hooks. It kind of looks like a fish hook, but without the barbs on the end of it. And they rotate round and they stick into the bale in the top, and then you can pick it up, and they hold it like that. And it's called a flat 8 because these were originally used for picking up small bales. They would be left in groups in the field of 8 in the UK. I think they're called something different in the States because you tend to have a bigger scale of it. You don't just have 8 bales, you can have 10, 12 or more. But yeah, they would pick up all of these. They'd pick up all of the small bales, and it's slightly different. The spikes were, the hooks were slightly different shaped for, I can turn this one off now. The hooks for the bales were a slightly different shape, so we didn't have to worry about it too much. Yeah, so that it picked the bales up a little bit easier. But yeah, so you needed neat, tidy, straight bales, and because they were quite long, thin, they were very susceptible to the straw not going into the chamber in a precise, even manner. And the thing with the New Holland straw, with a swath of straw, I will get to my point eventually, ladies and gentlemen. I realise I'm sort of digressing a lot. I will actually get to my point. Yeah, the straw coming out of the New Holland was really, really narrow. So when you went down it with the baler, unless you wove back and forth down the row, you ended up with banana-shaped bales, because you'd have all the straw on one side of the bale and none on the other side of the bale, and it would sort of make it come out like a banana, and it was awful. So when you were baling the straw, instead of just, lining it up and going straight down the row, you had to do, we ended up, I think we would do two strokes on one side, two strokes on the other side, or a crossover and then two strokes, or something like that. And when I say the stroke, as the ram on the baler is absolutely huge. It's this massive thing that is bashing backwards and forwards and squashing the straw flat and pushing the bale out, and that's the ram. And every time the ram goes back, the tractor, the revs on the tractor would drop, so it sort of run. You kind of get the idea. I'm not going to do that again, don't worry. And so it would do this all day, and it was just sort of the rhythm of the baler, and you'd really get used to it very quickly. I'm going to park my combine right here so that it's ready to go when that field is ready to harvest. So let's just lower it down. I'm going to leave it unfolded. We'll turn it off. So we've actually got a trailer, half a trailer load of grain and no corn to harvest for a minute. I know, we could always run this up to the pigs, couldn't we? Because they still need some... Ooh, we'll do it with the Kramer, and then we can put the straw in for them at the same time. What an excellent idea. It would be better if we'd put it into the smaller trailer. So, yeah, you would put the wheel of the tractor right onto the very edge of the swath of straw on one side, and then keep it there for 2 revolutions, which was... You'd have a revolution, I think it was every 4 seconds or something like that. Right, I'm going to unhitch the rear trailer. So if I go there... Right, I'm hoping that this Kramer can cope with this one. It is a bit heavy for it, but it should be okay. Yeah, about 4 seconds. So you'd have 4 seconds, then the second stroke, and then on the 4 seconds of the third stroke, you'd be changing sides. And... yeah, that's it. Use your brakes, mate. Good. It's not the way to behave, really, on the roads, is it? And then you change sides and you do 8 seconds on the other side, and then you go back. And, oh, I used to hate doing the baling when you had to do that. If you could just line it up and just go and just charge up across a field, it was wonderful. But if you had to start weaving because you had narrow rows, I absolutely hated it. And it got to the point it's difficult to get perfect bales when you're doing that. You can try as much as you like, and you can improve the bales, but you still don't get them quite right. And it's very difficult to then load them onto trailers to move them around and handle them. So in the end, after we'd baled a couple of fields, we'd done maybe a day's worth of combining. The remaining, I think he was there with us for about 4 days, so there's 3 days worth. The estate manager eventually agreed to hire a rake, and we ran up and down the rows with a rake, pulling 2 rows into one, so it was a lot wider. It meant you went a lot slower with the baler because you were it was like double the straw, but it stuffed the pickup of the baler absolutely full, and you never had any trouble with it whatsoever. That was absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I was put on the rake, whiz up and down the field, and combine 2 rows into one, and then we come along with the bales, the baler behind. And I gotta say, the difference between the banana bales and those bales where you had a really thick swath of straw was absolutely incredible. Those bales that came out afterwards, they were perfect. Absolutely spot on, square. They were stuffed full. There was no loose bales. It was, as far as bales go, you couldn't get any better than that. That was the finest bales that you could ever have made. So yeah, ultimately we were quite pleased about that, but it did take quite a lot to persuade the farm manager to allow us to hire the rake in the first place. He really didn't like the idea of doing that. Ooh. Okay. We're going to pretend that I didn't just do that. If you don't mind, can we, yeah, we'll just pretend that I didn't just do that because... ooh, hang on. There. Turn it off. Right. Yes, because one of these robots, they're not cheap, and if you go along and you wallop it with a bucket of a large machine like this, it's not going to do it a lot of good. So we're going to pretend that I didn't do that, and I would ask you to kindly avert your eyes and pretend that you didn't see it either. Now then, we got some beans. Not sure how many we're going to need for these pigs, so let's just put that up to there and tip. Is that it? All this way, and that's all we needed. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that is all we needed. We don't really need very much straw either, but we will stuff some straw in. And not sure how long it's going to take. Like I said, we are going to try and buy some more pigs to speed that up, because once we get to 100, then we can start selling them regularly. Should make a bit of money. 15,000 there. Only 15 there. I don't think that we're going to be selling very much in the way of grain. I think that our money is actually going to come from the animals. So we're buying a little bit more land, but we're not going to buy a huge amount more land than what we've got. We're going to get the fields 15 and 20, possibly field 23, but I think that is actually going to be enough to provide the crops and the straw that we need for our animals. Because, you know, if we're... There we go. If we're focusing on animals and we're not going to be doing anything else, really we don't want to be selling crops in order to make our money. To make our money, we want to be selling animals. So I am sort of thinking now that we won't be selling crops for profit. Maybe if we've got a bit of excess, but once we get a higher number of pigs, they are going to start eating into all of the crops that we've got here available at the moment. And we're definitely going to need more straw, although the Arcusin will make a big difference with that. Bring this over here, tip it in. Not sure how much we're going to need. Probably not even this bucketful for now. It does look like that's everything. Just half a bucketful. Yeah, that's really all we've got time for today. What my plan is I'm going to head back on home now, and I'll hitch this. Well, I'll tip out the corn into our storage area and hitch this trailer back into the other one, although I don't think we're going to need the 2 trailers. I think we'll be fine with just the one, because we're not getting a huge yield from beans. I know that they're profitable because you get so much money from them, but you know, our main reason for growing beans isn't for the profit. I know I did say that we were going to do some for profit. Maybe we'll sell some of the beans. I'm not sure yet. Not quite. Yeah, I really haven't quite made up my mind on that. Oh, hang on. Let me do it this way. We forgot to set that one. We forgot to set that one going again. Yeah, I'm actually going to have to do it by tabbing. Oh, I can just tab straight to this one. Excellent. Right, let's start that one up, and I'm going to have to move this one back. Actually, there we go. I find that if I use the keyboard to do this, it's actually, I can get it lined up better than I can if I use my steering wheel to do it. Right, that does actually appear to be fairly well in line now. So let's just come back there and press H. That one's going all right. There. Back into cab, and we're away. So, yes, I will go and put these beans into our storage area and hitch the trailer back on, so that'll be ready. And then we're coming up to 5 o'clock, so really I need to go home for my tea. So I will go home for my tea, and we will spend the evening doing whatever we do. You know what? I think I might have a movie tonight. I'm going to have a movie night. We'll get a bit of popcorn and we'll watch a film. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but that's what I'm going to do. Me and Senleia, my wife, we will watch a movie, have a bit of popcorn, and it'll be great. And then tomorrow morning, bright and early, we will be able to come back, and hopefully the rest of the corn the rest of the boins. I was gonna say soybeans and tried to say beans at the same time. So the boins, yes, the rest of the boins will. I'm sorry, I really should aim to be a little bit more serious. We're farming here. It's not a circus. So the rest of the beans will be ready to harvest tomorrow morning, and we can carry right on. We'll do the field that we've got just here, and while we're harvesting those beans, we can also get the cultivator onto our little tractor, and we can start cultivating our field there that we've just harvested, and then we've got to move the combine up to the other beans. And I think really the best way to do that will be the direction that we've just come up through there, because we've got to leave the header on this combine. We can't take the header off, because as we have seen already, the right, I've just thought this trailer. Oh, hang on, no, look. Oh no, I thought that might have been like a manual tip point, but it's not. That's just the bit to drop down there. And if you, oh, it does. I am amazed. Look, see there, you've got a light socket just there. That's where you put the lights in for the trailer, and it doesn't have trailer brakes. You can't attach a trailer brakes by the look of it, but those two there, those sockets are actually for a hydraulic attachment. So you can actually use a proper tipping mechanism on this one. I did just think after I tipped for the last ones that wasn't very realistic, but it is, because we've got a hydraulic attachment on this Kramer. That is brilliant. So we can actually tip this one properly. I did wonder if maybe I'd acted outside the realms of realism there for a moment, but we haven't. It's all okay. We're fine. So we will carry on with our soybean harvest tomorrow, and then we will go up there near the pigs and we'll do the harvesting up there. That little tractor, where is he? That one that's on that at the moment. We'll get that one onto a cultivator. He can start working on the fields. We've got to decide what we're going to plant next. We've got some corn. We do have corn stored. Well, we'll worry about that another day. We don't need to worry about that now. Can I back this one up here? Actually, before I do that, so my weekly question, we will hopefully be getting some straw at some point, and that means we're going to need a baler to gather it all up, so we're getting a square baler, because that's what you all want. So which do you want me to use to gather it all up? Do you want me to use this little 3 bale Arcusin, which when you're close to the fields you could just run backwards and forwards, but to be honest, when it's a bit further away we're going to need to use a trailer to bring it back. So that means watching me painfully struggle with a fork and a big bale spike on the front loader and stuff like that. Or we could use the 16 bale Arcusin, which, to be honest, is a lot easier. You just load it up, run it back to the yard, tip it up, and you have an instant straw stack. Nice and simple. But just because I want one doesn't mean that you all want one. It's your vote, it's your game. Mouse over the top corner up here and click on the circle with the white eye, the white circle with the eye in it, I should say, and cast your vote. Then head into the comment section and tell us all about why you're voting for the one you're voting for. Now then, I haven't actually given a topic of discussion for today, and I know for a fact that quite a lot of you actually really like me giving a topic of discussion, because it has been pointed out that I haven't done on some occasions when I haven't. I can't see anything here. Are the mirrors going to work? Oh, actually, we can see the mirrors. Just. Right. Nope, that way. I'm going to bring it back slightly that way. So, my topic of discussion. You know, I was talking about that indescribable feeling that for me was one of the most amazing moments ever when I first got into a combine and started driving it. Please let us know, all of you, or anybody that cares to. How far away am I? Right, it's back in cab. Oh, I'm actually right. I'm bang on. Look at that. Using the mirrors and everything, I'm actually spot on. Perfect. I'm very pleased with that. And if we have a look, the trailer barely moved at all. It would have left a slight mark if it had, I think. Maybe. Anyway, we'll just leave that one there for now. I'm going to have to... Actually, I'll unhitch it off of the Kramer. There. So, yeah, tell us about your indescribable moments. Tell us about something that has really stuck with you. It doesn't matter if it's farming related or otherwise, but something that just has always stuck with you ever since. It just made you go, wow when it happened. It's just, I can't believe this is actually happening to me right now. This is incredible. Although I would say keep it clean. I will remove any comments that aren't clean. Remember, please keep in mind that this is a family channel, so just before anybody gets clever, your moments where you've just gone, this is incredible, this is amazing, I can't believe I am this lucky to be able to be doing something like this, like I was with the Combine. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this episode, then please head down below and give us a like, and if you really enjoyed it, please tell your friends all about me, get them to come and watch as well. That would be awesome. But until next time, thank you very much for watching. This is Frithgar, goodbye, and see you later.